13.1b featured an abundance of massive item changes, which means optimal builds have been evolving ever so quickly. To keep you guys up to date, we'll be covering over 30 new builds you need to be playing. Although our analysts have done a ton of research for this video, we're bound to miss something, so if there's a build you think is really strong that we didn't cover in this video, be sure to let everyone know in the comments below. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. We'll start off by covering some of the best new bruiser or fighter builds of the patch, now that Death's Dance and Maw have been nerfed. To be clear, this isn't to say that Death's Dance and Maw are dead items. In fact, they are still great in the correct spots, but these changes open things up for alternative options, which we will be covering right now. Starting with Black Cleaver, the item was flat out buffed this patch, and there are a few champions that are actually performing extremely well with Cleaver as a rush item. Aatrox, Urgot, and Illaoi are 3 champions loving the Cleaver buffs and slotting it in as their first purchase. With Death's Dance nerfed, the complete Aatrox build is looking like a Black Cleaver rush into Eclipse second and Cyrilda's Grudge third. A sample core for Illaoi is Black Cleaver into Frostfire Gauntlet second and Sterak's third. As for Urgot, Black Cleaver with Ravenous Hydra second and Joksho third works amazing. There are a bunch of other champions that can slot Black Cleaver in as a second purchase, being Camille, Jax, Gnar, Wukong, and Renekton. Gnar and Wukong like Black Cleaver almost every game, but for Camille, Jax, and Renekton, it's best when the enemy comp has a tank top or jungle. One of the more slept on items that becomes indirectly stronger this patch is Sterak's Gage. Sterak's is a great alternative to Death's Dance and Maw, so with both items nerfed, there are many champs you want to be prioritizing Sterak's on more often. Olaf, Illaoi, Camille, Darius, and Set are the champs who should be building Sterak's. Darius is the one champ who can slot in Sterak's as a second purchase, otherwise everyone else works best grabbing the item third. With the Cleaver and Sterak's users covered, let's go over a bunch of fighters that have unique builds just for themselves. Starting with Fiora, Hullbreaker or Spear of Shojin are looking so much better as a third purchase now. Prior to the Death's Dance nerfs, over 50% of Fiora players would purchase the item third. Now that the healing on Death's Dance passive has been significantly lowered, if you are not actively teamfighting, the value of the passive is extremely poor. With that said, in games where your win condition is to play through the side lane and are planning to split push, going Hullbreaker or Shojin instead of Death's Dance is a great idea. Kled is another champion who would almost always slot in Death's Dance as a third purchase, but there is a great alternative going around right now. Playing Kled full-out offensive seems to be the most optimal playstyle at the moment, and Cyrilda's Grudge is performing extremely well. The complete core to try is a Ravenous Rush into Eclipse second and Cyrilda's Grudge third. Riven has been an avid Death's Dance user for a while now, but with the nerfs, it gives a lot more merit to Spear of Shojin as a core purchase. In games where you're snowballing but your team is behind and you have to win through the side lane or from beating the enemy in 1v1s, then going Shojin instead of Death's Dance is great. Irelia is an interesting one because she doesn't really have any amazing replacements for Death's Dance when against AD comps. Of course, Wit's End is optimal on Irelia when you're playing into AP heavy comps, but she's limited in what she can build into AD comps. Frozen Heart is an option if you are against a bunch of auto-reliant AD champs, otherwise Death's Dance is still going to be the best third item for Irelia into AD comps. We've mainly focused on top lane builds thus far, so let's dive into some jungle builds now. Jarvan and Vi have been devoted Death's Dance users for a long time, but there's an entirely new core build you can look to play on them. Chempunk Rush into Radiant Virtue second and Black Cleaver third is the core. The whole idea behind this build is to max out on ability haste and provide your team with constant long-range pick power. Jarvan and Vi, both being champions that thrive off those hard engage ult plays, synergize amazing with the Radiant Virtue passive. Death's Dance is still the most purchased third item on Hecarim, but there is a brand new core build you need to try. Like the previous build, it revolves around Radiant Virtue. You'll rush Manamune, go into Radiant second, and round it out with a Spear of Shojin third. This build is starting to gain a lot more popularity and is currently seeing the most success for any Hecarim build. With Death's Dance and Maw being weaker, combined with Axiom Arc seeing buffs, it's opened things back up for a lethality Nocturne build. In fact, the best performing Noct build is now full offensive, with an Eclipse Rush into Axiom Arc second and Edge of Night third. You do have the option of going Stridebreaker into Cleaver as well if you still want to play more of a Bruiser Nocturne. Lethality Noct is definitely back though, so if you've been missing that more offensive one-shot style of the champ, wait no further. Speaking of offensive builds, do you guys remember when Xin Zhao used to be dominating with an Essence Reaver setup? Lucky for him, Essence Reaver buffs this patch have brought a ton of life back to that build. The 3-item core for Xin consists of an Eclipse Rush into Essence Reaver 2nd and the Collector 3rd. Kayn is in a pretty weak state at the moment, but the Black Cleaver buffs have given him a boost this patch. An item being heavily slept on for Kayn right now is Spear of Shojin. Gore into Black Cleaver and Spear is the 3-item core, and it's amazing for Kayn due to all the ability haste it provides. Q spam is nuts in fights, and when you're playing into comps that have little AD burst, then going Spear over Death Stance is a great option. Viego is a champion that really lacks that strong alternative to Death Stance, especially when playing into AD comps. With the blade nerfs this patch as well, Viego was hit from many different angles, so he's not in the greatest spot. You should definitely be playing Wit's End instead of Maw if against AP comps, but Death Stance 3rd item into AD comps is still looking like the most optimal choice. Belveth runs into the exact same issues as Viego, being a champion that can thrive with Wit's End, so she doesn't mind the Maw nerfs. There just isn't that great alternative to Death Stance. If you're really snowballing and want max DPS, then Rage Blade performs extremely well as a 3rd item, but if you feel you need that durability, then there's no better choice than Death Stance. Lee is another jungler who simply lacks that powerful alternative to Maw and Death Stance. If you want to play Lee more assassin-like, then an Eclipse Rush into Ravenous Hydra 2nd and Black Cleaver 3rd can do the trick. Bruiser Lee doesn't really have any other great options though, so if you want added durability, Death Stance and Maw are still the best options. With Rek'Sai, you have a couple different options to round out the core build. Prowlers into Edge of Night are staple 1st and 2nd items, while Guardian Angel and Black Cleaver are viable 3rd pickups. In games where you're snowballing super hard and are looking to close the game out with one more team fight, Guardian Angel is a great buy. Into tankier comps, grabbing Black Cleaver 3rd will help to shred enemies' armor and allow your backline to finish them off much easier. You've got a few really good setups for Kindred this patch, with more of a Bruiser build or a full-on offensive setup. For the Bruiser build, it consists of Kraken into Wit's End 2nd and Black Cleaver 3rd. This one is going to be more valuable into an enemy comp with at least one solid AP threat. We are seeing a ton of AP junglers at the moment, with Maokai, Elise, Zac, and Echo being heavily prioritized, so this build is great value in a lot of games. The crit Kindred build performing the best this patch is a Kraken Rush into Infinity Edge 2nd and Rapid Fire Cannon 3rd. Yasuo and Yone being squishier champs benefited a ton from the passive heal on Death Stance. Now that has been nerfed quite heavily, the power of Death Stance has been greatly diminished. With Bloodthirster buffed, it's a great alternative and slotting in perfectly as a 3rd item. We noted in our recent tier list update that Infinity Edge Rush on Yasuo was actually performing quite well, but as more data has come in, it does still seem like Shield Bow will remain the superior rush option. With all the new fighter builds covered, let's move on to breaking down all the best ADC builds going around. Xayah has 2 variations you can look to try this patch, with Gale Force Rush into Quick Blade 2nd being the 2-item core. 3rd purchase is where things get spicy, as you can side with Phantom Dancer for more DPS, or Bloodthirster for more durability and burst. Bloodthirster is actually looking like a really good pickup now on a ton of ADCs. You have the dash from Gale Force combined with the buffed shield from Bloodthirster, which really enhances survivability into dive comps. Pro Samira players have for the most part dropped the Collector as a core purchase and have a brand new build for this patch. Shield Bow remains the staple rush item, but you'll now go into Infinity Edge 2nd and Bloodthirster 3rd. The item combo of Shield Bow and Bloodthirster is so lethal on Samira, as it synergizes perfectly with how she wants to dive in and be in the middle of fights. The Jhin Build of the old days is back, as you are now building Infinity Edge 2nd once again. So far, this core is outperforming all other highly picked Jhin builds, so definitely look to try it out if you haven't already. The core for Tristana has changed for this patch, as you want to be rushing Kraken Slayer, going into Infinity Edge 2nd, and picking up Phantom Dancer 3rd. Draven has been a massive winner from the item buffs, and it's a no-mythic core that is performing the best thus far. You rush Essence Reaver, going into Infinity Edge 2nd, and grab Bloodthirster 3rd. Every single one of those items were buffed this patch, which gives the build so much value. Eclipse is an option as well if you want a little more survivability and are playing into squishy assassins. Kai'Sa is one of the ADCs who's liking Quick Blades more than Infinity Edge. A 3-item core of Kraken, Quick Blades, and Phantom Dancer is what has been performing the best in 13.1b. Shorter E and Q cooldown is really good value for Kai'Sa, and more worth it to have than the added AD and crit Infinity Edge provides. Jinx has been loving the item changes, as Infinity Edge is now a staple 2nd item for the champ. Kraken Rush into Infinity Edge 2nd and Fire Cannon or Hurricane 3rd is what you'll run for the majority of games. Caitlyn is spiking so much harder off 2 items now, being able to build Infinity Edge 2nd instead of Fire Cannon. Fire Cannon 2nd really limited the snowball power of Caitlyn and her ability to extend early leads, so IE coming back as a 2nd purchase is amazing for her. Cait players going IE 2nd are winning 3% more than players who build it 3rd. MF has been on the rise this patch as she can abuse 2 of the buffed ADC items. You want to be rushing Kraken Slayer, grabbing Infinity Edge second, and rolling with Bloodthirster third. This 3-item core for Lucian is quite underrated at the moment, but has gotten a lot stronger for 13.1b. Kraken is the rush into the buffed Essence Reaver second and Navori Quick Blades third. You can also experiment with interchanging the order of Essence Reaver and Quick Blades. All in all though, Essence is looking like a staple on Lucian in place of Fire Cannon or the Collector due to its buffs. Sivir is really enjoying the ability of being able to purchase Navori as a second item now. Having to wait until your third purchase to grab Quick Blades really limited Sivir's teamfight potential, but now that you can purchase it second, it means she comes online a lot harder in the mid game. You're lacking some raw attack speed by delaying Phantom Dancer until third, but the Quick Blades passive will give you a very short W cooldown, which helps to make up for that. The new Zeri build you need to be playing on 13.1b consists of a Shield Bow rush into Quick Blade second and Hurricane third. Since Zeri's Q procs on hit effects, it does indeed work with the Quick Blades passive. Even prior to the item buffs, Quick Blades has been heavily outperforming Infinity Edge on Zeri. Ezreal builds are all over the place right now, but the 2-item core of Essence Reaver into Quick Blades is looking like the real deal. If you want to play crit Ezreal, Quick Blade's second item is doing much better than Kraken Slayer. Third item is where you can get really crafty, as Gale Force, Kraken, and Shield Bow are all viable options. Gale is actually the mythic item performing the best on Ezreal, so if you haven't tried it out yet, then definitely give it a go. And the final new build we have to report for 13.1b is one for Aphelios. In recent patches, many Aphelios players have been building Bloodthirster second into Infinity Edge third, but you actually want to swap that around now. A Gale Force rush into Infinity Edge second and Bloodthirster third is what's leading to the best results for Aphelios players. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that wraps everything up for all the new builds of patch 13.1b. Thank you guys so much for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you in the next one.